Hazania, Hazane, Hazane, Hazania, 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 Hazane, Hazania, Hazania, Hazane, 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 Tina songe singama Afrika, Tina songe singama Afrika, Tina songe singama Afrika, Tina songe singama Afrika, umxhosa lo yengum Afrika, umveldulo naye ngumAfrika umsululo, naye ngumAfrika nomsuthulo, naye ngumAfrika thina sonke singama-Afrika, thina sonke singama-Afrika, thina sonke singama-Afrika, thina sonke singama-Afrika. Ngala mavulu ayasithakatha kobe ngafuni ubona umuntu omnyama. Ngala mavulu ayasithakatha kobe ngafuni ubona umuntu omnyama. Thina sonke singama-Afrika, thina sonke singama-Afrika, thina sonke singama-Afrika, thina sonke singama-Afrika. Umvenda lo naye ngumAfrika, umSuthu lo naye ngumAfrika, uMpedi lo naye ngumAfrika, Ndebele lo naye ngumAfrika. Thina sonke singama-Afrika, thina sonke singama-Afrika, thina sonke singama-Afrika, thina sonke singama-Afrika. Amandla, forward to socialism, forward. Bayafina laba mama babebhalele matsheli, bayafina laba fazi bebebhalele matsheli. Kunje nasiyabuza, kunje nje inemibuzo, kunje nasiyabuza, kunje nje sinemibuzo. Yeyanina lenhlupeko eyambethe iAfrika, yeyanina lenhlupeko
Kutheni na kunjenje, 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 kutheni na kunjenje.
Amandla. Amandla. Till the time comes. What time? The time of the last breath. This is the piece I'm reading this morning. Till the last breath, the last countdown, when all destructive systems have been shut down. Till the time when the last ounce of our strength has been spent, we can never say we've reached the end of the road. As stories of horror continue to unfold, we shall hold none of our strength back. We shall pick up the pace and finish the race. There's no time for procrastination because this game is still on. It hasn't changed. All that has changed is faces and names of the monsters that oppress us. Till the last breath, the last countdown, when all of our blood has been sucked out by vultures, when we no longer can bleed, we shall proceed in a progressive speed, watering seeds of revolutionary deeds, watering them to grow into trees that cannot be cut. Till the last breath, the last countdown, when all innocent children no longer die of poverty and malnutrition, when all people feel the need to sing songs of celebrating freedom, shouting and screaming and shouting, saying, yes, yes, we are free, free from economic oppression and educational exclusion, free from jails of poverty and massive incarceration, free from corporate greed and this endless oppression. So far from the end, and yet so close to the beginning, we shall proceed, we shall proceed, we shall proceed, taking giant steps till the last breath.
We shall where? Okay. We shall proceed. We shall proceed. Become or grow trees that cannot be cut. Welcome to day 3, comrades. Molweni. Thank you very much to the patriarchs in the corner. That baritone coming there, very critical for the thing of the. I mean, you were just doing your own thing in the corner there, but the ensemble was inspiring. Kutheni nakunje. And on day 3, we want to figure out from the tools that we've gathered together over the last 2 days, Indonile that we are proposing is the vehicle to change things now, but with a collective and a systemic goal in mind. Is that fine? Parkway breakaways yesterday, so I don't want people to leave. I need to be all traveled to come and give each other an opportunity to reflect together. So don't go away. You can see we've already lost our people. Maybe it will be like this one day in the harder trenches. So those of us that are here, can we try for just full participation? In the breakaway groups and in the plenary conversations yesterday, it's clear to us that the how is very different. And we keep going, yeah, we can disagree on those things as long as we've got one goal in mind. But that's not true. We can't get to the thing, even if we have a name for it by the end of today, if the model for the way that, or the modalities, or the praxis, or the mission of how we want to do that work is different. Ne? So I want to try to see if we can spend today naming those things and then finding each other, so that by the time we are on our planes back to where we came from, or in area via home, we're very clear the thing that we want to commit ourselves to.
Going to be liberated economically and politically. And so we began a process of cutting back. So let me just give you a quick example. So one of the consequences of, so they use the word austerity measures, and again blame the chair if I can't unpack, but it basically means budget cuts. So they started cutting beds in the hospitals. And you'll forgive me, I was in another lifetime from a public sector union, so I'm using that example. So you cut beds. So beds means less patients can be accommodated, right? And let me be very quick, but the example is important. And so when you had positions, a number of posts in a hospital, and then this nurse decides she's going to another job, so then they freeze that post. So the establishment posts of nurses moves from 12 to 11. Then another porter goes somewhere else. And in the midst of all of this, different layers of those health workers were outsourced to agencies. In manufacturing, you call it labor brokers. In the health sector, you call it agencies. So that little porter that wheels the patients is not employed by the public sector, comes from an agency. Large stratas do. Less nursing sisters, no pharmacists. Now, when you do that, and ourselves as communities goes to the clinic, that nurse comes out and says, I'm only taking till patient 20. 21 onwards, go home. What happens to 21? 21 turns on the nurse because you're sending me back. Number 21 in the queue does not say, how many nurses are you? How many patients are you seeing to? When you come to the pharmacy, the pharmacy assistant, because all the pharmacy posts are frozen, says there's no Panado. The ARVs, you may have won the right, we are out of stock. There's no medicines for TB. Or they just give anything. Or they overdiagnose because there's no one signing off portions of medication. We turn on the pharmacists. If there's if a wrong medication is dispensed, because there's no senior person to sign off, we ask that the pharmacist be charged. Now, how do we get that patient in the clinic, in the public service, and that overworked, burnt out, bad attitude nurse to say, but the budget cuts have affected service delivery? So that comes back to what are our aspirations as different classes, stratas, in relation to what democratic rights we want to defend, and why do we think it's important to defend that? And how much of it happens through lobbying the state. And Sia is pointing out, is that the only strategy in a democratic process? And how do you lobby a state without building the mass movements politically? And how do you build those mass movements in a period where people feel so disenfranchised that they don't think they live in a democratic state, that the lack of service delivery for them in some pockets has disempowered them or left them leaderless? And then you've got the issue of where working class movements like unions and their federations, for a range of complex reasons, have become weaker. 30% unionization is now reduced to 23%. Fragmented labor movement. So in the midst of that, how do we build the bridges? What becomes the solidarity links? There aren't easy answers. That's one thing we have to accept. And I think, oh, I thought you were victimizing us. Sorry.
Alive. Thank you. Can we please break ourselves into 3 pods while just in this hall? Ne? So the comrades here, Pana, Comrade Tapelo, if you could maybe join this, Nobongi, this, and then you up and Nabazali. Ne? And then the comrades there at the back, some of you can come in here, Comrade Shoki, but that's a group there, Comrade Fatima, Itu, Pindi. And then this group, you just face each other and you can stay as is. Bani ifuni gender balance, nabo BK paya, ne? Don't be worried. And then this will be our last group here. If you can just organize yourselves. Let's organize ourselves now, comrades, ne? And I'll tell a story while that is happening. Sisebenzi asinamali singamalungu imali 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 asinamali sisebenzi asinamali singabafundi asinamali sisebenzi asinamali singabafundi imali 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 iza
Wayeshela umsezitube osinamala sisebenzi imali 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 Wayeshela umsezitube osinamala sisebenzi Wayeshela Wayeshila umsizitube imali 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 Wayeshila umsizitube osinamala sisebenzi Wayeshila umsizitube asinamala sisebenzi imali 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 amandla Qina khomzo uzonqoba qina. One Azania. One nation.
Thank you, comrades. I wonder if we can get just a blitz feedback from each group. We'll do a 5 minutes a pop. No? We've got breakaway groups happening after tea, so don't feel frustrated by the 5 minutes. It's just to try and ventilate what was happening in the other corners of the room. Is that fine? Okay, so we'll start with our mass group there in the corner. What will happen on the other side of the group reflections is that our panel will end us off with the last bits of the input. Is that fine? We also had a panel member in each group, ne? So it's also drawing on what comes out now in plenary, what had happened in the groups too, and then the experience as well in thinking about this vision. Is that fine by everyone? Mm-hmm. Don't leave the room, Gene. It's still a participatory process, even if you're not the one speaking. Okay.
All right, we from the plenary group are reporting. Good morning, comrades. Oh, okay. Mic etiquette. So the first point of departure, we recognize that we talk about movements and movements building, and realize that it is quite possible that this thing that we're talking about, our understanding of it may not be the same. So we're talking about popular power and popular movement and movement building, and we thought that it might be important and will be important in this space for us to define the thing and to make sure that we are all on the same page and that we're talking about a building of the same thing that we all understand. The second point was that we then talked about the kind of infrastructure that would be necessary to anchor and hold this thing. And so we go and we build it, but there would need to be some kind of like an infrastructure that holds it together and sustains it long time. And so we talked about what that might look like, and that it would be possible for us in this space to talk about what that might look like, or what that might require even of us. There was a recognition that we all in this room are already heavily involved in different struggles. And the ask is that we don't abandon those struggles, but that we identify a unifying campaign, the unifying thing that brings and connects all of us, that we are able to pursue from this point forward together, over and above the stuff that we're doing. And with that, there was also a call for solidarity, and how we understand in the group solidarity to mean. It is really to show up, and to show up for each other, and to show up with each other. And so reference was made in a conversation that somebody had centered around how we not supporting certain struggles, how we're not supporting the Uber drivers, for example, when they protest, how we don't show up for the pick it up people when they protest, right? And that solidarity means showing up for each other and showing up en masse. And so beginning to do that. The idea was around this unifying campaign that we need to be very clear about the milestones. So the things that we want to achieve together in the short, medium, and long term. And a recognition that the war is a long-term one, but that there are small battles to be won along the way, and that we needed to be clear of what those battles are and articulate the wins along the way to build momentum and keep energy. And then there was also a recognition that actually there's energy at community level already. People are protesting today already about service delivery. People are doing stuff today already. However, often in our corners, we don't count those as part of the social movement. And that there was an intention, and we do need to find and connect. If we're wanting to build en masse and build from below, we need to find and connect with those struggles and that energy where it is, and support it even. And finally, the call was to figure out what was called an organizer of the organizers. What is the center that's going to pull us and hold us together? What does that thing look like that continues to hold us together as a bigger group? And perhaps maybe think about that and identify it. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, vote for comrades. Thank you very much. That's very strong reflections from that group. Like even in your own group, the people have left. People aren't really present. I don't know how else in comrades. Group 2, please stay in the room. Ne? It's worth it.
Yeah, sorry. Hi. So in group 2, we had several reflections, but I think one of the thing that came out strongly was the idea that we need to rally people together, and we need to do this through not popular education, political education. And we need to focus on political education, but those things will look different in different communities. They'll look different on different levels, whether it's local, on a regional level, across South Africa. We need to understand, but that we need to galvanize people around thinking about things, and thinking about things not with the same outcomes or the same ideas, but conscientizing people. And instead of choosing like topics, we set about a few principles of how we think that this political education should happen. Tess has them here, but I'm going to try and see how many of them I can remember. The first is that we must build trust among people, and that's the idea that we try to believe the best intentions in our comrades, which is that sometimes you won't show solidarity in the way that I want you to show solidarity. You won't always be at my march. You won't sign my petition, but we understand that we are comrades together in this, and we build a trust relationship around understanding the best intentions. And the second is to understand, to help conscientize the idea that we have that there are many unique issues within a community, but that we have one overarching issue. And I mean, I framed it as neoliberalism, but no one in my group differed from me. But it's also the idea of understanding, so I think they agree, and the idea that the common enemy is neoliberalism and how we make that very accessible to people, that it's not this big, lofty pie in the sky thing, but how it affects us at a local level, etc. And that we must also understand when we can't talk about ideology, we can't talk about big concepts like jam without also understanding the basic needs of people and understanding that people must eat first and you can't eat ideology. So I think that's all of us. And also understanding crisis, understanding those things and moving from that, moving from movement building, moving from understanding crisis, moving from this idea that we want to strengthen people and we want to be intersectional and strengthen struggle. So it's these sets of principles that we need to think about when we think about political education.
Kelly Berkeley, Dumalang, everyone. So I'm coming from the CBD group, and yeah, we had quite a few of discussions around the question of how do we use our imagination to move the struggle forward. We had a point of departure was the understanding that mobilization is long-term, it takes time, and it's sustained through constant engagement, and that it must be people-led. So a down-up approach, ideally. We also looked at information sharing. So how can, for instance, we coordinate nationally? So how do we get to that point? And some of the suggestion was to establish some sort of directory where in different communities we establish basically a list of active movements or NGOs in that particular spaces, and what are the challenges that they are encountering or dealing with. This has to do in part with Amanda said about understanding that, although we didn't say neoliberalism per se, but we understood that there is some sort of connection with the struggles that we face, especially socioeconomic undertoned challenges, and therefore having some sort of directory can also make it easier when it's time, for instance, to mobilize and coordinate efforts nationally. So you have a sense of direction as to who's who, where. We also spoke about the language, how to make it accessible. This is especially important in terms of building people's movement, in a sense that there tends to be some sort of misconception that politics happens beyond, our day-to-day lives. So how do we sort of demystify that by making it accessible and also reinforcing the fact that it encompasses all the aspects of our lives, basically, and to obviously leverage on technology, but not rely too much on it, especially when we look into the fact that the government oftentimes can do, for instance, an internet shutdown. So that can have, that's a disadvantage on its own. We also spoke about looking at previous mass-based movements, looking at how did they do it. So learning from the past, but also being mindful of the current era and and the context that we live in. Thank you. We also spoke about unity in action. So it's important to not just talk, but to actually do, to be really active across the board, and to embrace the fact that our struggles are common. Noted. Our struggles are common, and as much as they're common, they also differ somehow. So to not fixate on looking at it from a holistic point of view, but to embrace the fact that there are people that are fighting struggles that may slightly deviate from our understanding of it, and in doing so, we also become a space that accommodates, differences. And I think that's a point that was mentioned across the week about being tolerant. We spoke at great lengths on funding and resources. I mean, a challenge that was picked up was the fact that funders often dictate the direction in which a movement or NGO must venture to, and to circumvent that, a point was made about holding funders accountable, one, and just being self-reliant. So looking at alternative approaches, such as leveraging on social capital as well as human capital, as well as infrastructure within society. So for instance, asking the church to lend the venue for meetings, so being creative with the little that you have. And
Thank you, comrades.
one last
Okay.
point. Importantly, to also be mindful of the fact that here is the sort of inner circle of social movements and NGOs, and therefore information shouldn't end here. So it's important to take back the information to the communities and to also deliver it in a manner that it's easily digestible, and to let people, allow people on the ground to also be vessels that drive the struggle forward. Thank you.
Thank you to the group CBD. I'm not sure if that is or the other one. Last year, around this period, we were in this room with equalizers. These are learner members at Equal Education. And we were discussing the ideals around participatory democracy in Njalo, building up to the elections next year. I mean, it was this year then. And we were discussing neoliberalism. You met Kopano here the other day. So it would have been a concept that he's hearing in this room for the first time and not in his classroom. And a comrade left here calling the whole ideology unewo. And I'm sharing that. Yeah, I'm sharing that because that group smiled when Amanda said, we have the one enemy, unewo. I don't want to even try to summarize what's come out of those groups, but I'm hoping people are feeling the threads. The spirit is moving, we are coming together nicely, even though we will never build hegemony. I'm going to let the panel then finish off their inputs, but reflecting from what they've heard in the groups, and your experience of your period here as well. Because we've got questions now. How? Yeah? Okay. So because we ended with you, we can start on that side. Nonhle's already side-eyeing me here.
All right. No, there isn't an input to finish. I was misbehaving earlier. But let's just pick up a few things, if you allow me, of what I think I hear comrades saying. So, organs of people's power. We had those, no? When we were involved in the struggle, we had conceptualized community policing forums, school governing bodies, SGBs, health committees that sit on in the hospitals. And part of what happened there, their formalization, their being legislated, being co-opted, has, in some, and through other reasons, has disempowered them as organs of people's power. Now, the challenge for us is, do we go back and reclaim that, or do we build new organs of people's power? Surely that differs from material condition to material condition. Each community understands best what they can reclaim. But key to building movements and political work, what I'm hearing over the last few days is, how do we build those organs of people's power? Now, if we're able to do that, what do we do with those organs of people's power? Are they built to smash the state? Are they built to lobby? Are they built to go to political parties and say, you in the GNU, you're all hopeless, but do you want to use the space to change something to at least gain some little respect? Or is that not an option? So I think that part is a bit unresolved for me. This concept of an end in itself or a means to an end, given the class differences. But even within the working class, we have different stratas. The unemployed versus that nurse who we think is privileged, who's heavily indebted, and who's burnt out, and the one that has no work at all. So I think, as comrades have correctly said, the issues are complex, right? Now, at the start of the establishment of the labor movement, as COSATU was being formed, I just deferred to Comrade Dinga. So there was huge ideological differences around what does this labor movement do politically? Does it align to the liberation movement? Does it confine itself to shop floor issues and build working class power? And so the majority ended up getting involved in political movements, right? Political struggles, anti-apartheid struggles. And there was a strain within that movement that said, no, let's keep this thing on the shop floor. So very broadly, and I'm oversimplifying, an international concept, and we practiced it during the anti-apartheid struggle, this notion of social movement unionism. You know, you get involved in the political struggles. Now, at the point of what is the political direction of COSATU, it's NUMSA who comes up with this concept, which I think we're hearing here, which is march separately but strike together. So in the absence of trying to sound like a Deputy Lenin, it's Comrade Dinga who reminded me, but it's a concept that comes from Lenin. So let me continue the trajectory of being trying to pretend to be a Deputy Lenin. So this united front concept of what's that single issue that in many ways is exemplified by comrades in equal education, the comrades of TAC, who were the predecessors to the United Front. It's Leon Trotsky that conceptualized what's a united front. You take a single issue and you run with it. We must come back to, as we march separately and build separately, what brings us together. Comrades suggest hunger, food, issues around service delivery. That's not resolved, okay? And then the last point I want to make, what are the tools, right? So for some, the tools are a hammer and sickle. For others, it's the laptop, the smartphone, and whatever else they are staring at the screen and doing. But for others, it's a mix of issues. You don't abandon the parliamentary route. You don't abandon contesting state power. But once we're there, what are we doing? Who are we helping on what? Is it the same platform as those who in that state? Because comrades get co-opted, and it's our fault. We put them up as independent candidates. There's no alternative vision of, here's an alternative vision on housing, on water. Don't take that full package. Take a portion and give the rest back to the movement. We don't have those processes, or maybe we do, but we're not strong enough on them. Do we take the legal route? Equal education does that on textbooks, on school latrines. They win the cases. But those are long processes, expensive processes. Do we all have the capacity to follow the legal route? The TAC points out, but that was not the only thing we did. We didn't only follow the legal route. And TAC was effective in drawing us in as Nehawu to get to march alongside them. It wasn't easy. I mean, there were very complex processes with Nehawu shop stewards and TAC activists, but we managed to do some stuff together, okay? But TAC said we also lobbied. We did the legal thing, and we did mass mobilization. So what works where we located? But let me stop. I don't want to abuse time, Chair, but I think there's so many issues. The point is, this one meeting can't determine what we do in every corner, but what's the minimum that we can bring together across the complexities? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, DL. That was really, really power. Okay, Nkosi, yeah. Definitely give the girls some claps. Comments here.
So Chair, I won't be as long, but, but for me, we talking about building more democracy. We want more democracy. And we want democracy that works for working class people. Isisebenzi. And for me, that's what we're building our movements for. And that's what movement building is for. And this is the background of our thinking when we talk about building movements. And this is a broad term. It requires to do the work. It requires to do the work. And in this context as well, as we talk about this, we need to also distinguish between unions, the labor movement, and abasebenzi, and where we also put our energies. And Tulani, I'm imagining the recent Mercedes retrenchments, that as much as we obsess around building relationships with unions, we miss the point of building serious, direct solidarity with workers. So in the, and I want to make an example where why in our movement, and I'm making an example here of Comrade Mazi, where there was a situation where in the Communist Party, there were commissions, and there was a worker commission. And the person who heads the worker commission, their role, their sole role, was to go and occupy and sit in a shop steward office at Continental. Okay, you might finish your lunch because you're unemployed, but it is important to then begin the talk of how do we build this solidarity between communities of the working class. And we tend to miss this. And from this, I want to draw an example that in East London, Mercedes-Benz said the C-Class that is produced there is no longer profitable. So they want to remove, I think about 92 workers to London, 700 workers, even worse. But the issue here is that we're panicking. We call meetings with the regional office of the union there. The regional office is saying, no, look, this is a local issue. Please, man, speak to the local office. We speak to the local office. The local office says, no, actually, this is a national issue. Can you speak to the national office? Okay? Only to find out after our own initiative of going and speaking to workers there to find out that the union has not yet went to understand these issues and what's happening with workers there. And this is where the conversation began, and this is where we started to then initiate pickets. And this is it requires us to do this work. And upon doing this work in closing, Chair, And I want to make another provocation. And this provocation, again, when I comrade Tapelo, around the crisis that we have of Operation Dudula. The minute there's Operation Dudula, and we're saying we want to build this working class power for working class democracy and for democracy that's working for working class people. But many people that are in Operation Dudula are black people, working class people, who are redirected about the cause of the crisis. But what do we do as the left? We just isolate them. And if we're serious about building this power, we need to begin a process where we put ourselves there, we organize ourselves there, we begin conversations around, comrades, this is redirected. And we won't achieve working class power until we go down to do this homework. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of points that the comrades they just bringing in. The one that I picked up, it's a unifying campaign. I think if we can be united, just for once, this democracy that we want to reclaim, will get it. You know, I just saw the Kenyans. They were just be united. Just go to the street. And the bill was being scrapped. Which is the thing that in South Africa right now, I don't see that is going to happen. Because we are in the corners. The reason why, it's because we are too proud of ourselves. I want my organization to be in the flag. It's not about people. It's about my organization. I think if you can change that attitude, things are going to go better. And just to pick it up, one uniting campaign. For example, the budget cuts. All of us, it doesn't matter you are on the GBV, you are on the land struggle, you are on the water, you are on the electricity, but it's affecting all of us. That is the thing that I always want to see South Africa going out, all of us, to tell the government that the budget cut is affecting all of us. And we also talk about the energy at a local level that is going down. And the reason why is because we are not uniting. That is why the level of energy on the ground is going down, because they lost the hope. If we can be united, that level, I mean, all that interest of politics, people they lost on the ground, it will bring it back. It will become back. That's my call, that let's bring the interest from the local. If we can do that, we'll do better. And also, we talk about organizer of the organizers. That's a very important part. I know that it's a very difficult one because we are very proud of ourselves. If we can just have that sash, it will put us where we want. And also to make sure that people on the ground, they are self-organized. They organize themselves. Because the other mistakes that we've done, we think we know everything. When we go to communities, we just undermine their own struggles on the ground. We put our own agendas. That is the thing also that is affecting our democracy, because we are donor-driven, which is very denting our struggle. Let's just look what are the problems on the ground and work on that. That is the democracy that we want. And also to make sure that the people on the ground, they determine their own future. It's not all the time the corporates, they determine the future of the next generation. That's the democracy that we want. If we can do that, communities determine their own future. And our livelihood also, it's not been trumped by the corporates. Today, we have a community that it kills each other because the democracy is in the hands of the few. And we cannot even tell ourselves why we're killing each other. And again, if we want the democracy, let's not be pushed by so-called jobs. The jobs, you're becoming a slavery at your own home, at your own garden. This is what the government right now is selling to our communities. Communities, they are no longer sustaining themselves. We are building a dependent syndrome. What kind of society that we are building? People that are dependent from the state. And I've seen in other countries in Africa, when you are talking against the state, they just switch it off the light. It means that is the end of the world to you, because everything you can't move without state. We need a free society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, comrades. The session is ending at 10 past. Ne? I think we've gotten an opportunity to reflect in the room and share with each other. We're building something nicely here that we can take into our breakaway groups after tea. And Nkosini, to the comrades that are sharing reflections in front of us here. What I'm appreciating most about this panel is that there's a deep sense of humility in some of the work that we've already done and in sharing here. And I'm wanting to extend that into the spirit of this room as well, as we continue to build. So thank you very much. Let's finish together. We'll have tea, sure. In those breakaways, please, comrades, there's a sense of we needing to capture the imagination of abantu. Emntwini, people are saying. Thinking about that organizer of the organizers. Who and how do we connect with each other? Don't forget critical issue, the reciprocal accountability that we need from philanthropy. Nobinjani na. Don't leave the room. We were discussing the idea of building relationships and trust amongst each other if we want to be in any kind of movement together. Ties in that story around the humility of how we do this work and care for each other inside of it. We talked about what is this solidarity. Izabanjani, comrades here, with each other first. When I say each other, I'm assuming communities too, please, Nindive. And the last is insisting also on working and capable public institutions. I see Shingem via government that we contributed to fighting for, and an ideal that is still possible, but getting on our terms. Yeah? Amandla. Away, Tungengani. Nkosini, comrades, you did so well, hey? Thank you so much, comrades. Tea time.
Comrades, before we open with a warm chorus. Sorry, comrades, I'm sorry. I continue to have to be the no, don't do that to me, comrade. I saw your hand. Oh, comrade, I'm so sad when you did that. Uncle Shem, you hurt my feelings. Yeah, I'm very sad actually now. No, I am. Because I'm made the bad person, but if I don't speak, you don't know what's happening. So we're going to have tea, comrades, and then after that, we'll go back into our breakaway groups, the color breakaway groups. So, no, don't do that, Amanda, don't do that. No, Amanda. The color wheel groups, the yellow, the blues, the reds, orange, and purples. So if you could please break into your groups after. So please grab tea and then head to the room that you are at in the afternoon. Minaj, do you have extra housekeeping? We have till lunch, so we have an hour in the breakaway groups. Before lunch. Right. So we have an hour, 20 minutes in our breakaway groups. So that realistically, then the breakaway group discussion will start at 11:30, and we'll continue then till about, what, 12:10? Guys, help me. This is why I'm in conversation. Right. So, okay. Right. Okay. You see, deep in the chat, we're building together. We did say collective action. Right. So, there's an hour and 20 minutes in the breakaway group. So, we get back here into plenary at 1:15. We get back here in plenary at 1:15. There are people who know who they are because they have a flight. So let's not have a chat here. There are people who know who they are because they've been emailed their flight details, and they also know there's a shuttle. Those who need to go in a shuttle because they're needing to go home, you know who you are. At that time, grab your things and then get onto the shuttle. Those who are still here, we will then continue the program when we come back at plenary at 1:45. Are we together, my friends? Thank you, comrades. Enjoy tea.
gerila, dubula gerila, oh dubula gerila, dubula gerila, oh mama ngiyekele, ngifuna ubalisosha, oh mama ngiyekele, ngifuna ubalisosha, isiphaminte encane, dubula gerila, isiphaminte encane, dubula gerila, ngifuna ubalisosha, oh mama ngiyekele, ngifuna ubalisosha, isiphaminte encane, dubula gerila, isiphaminte encane, dubula gerila, ayasaba magwala, ayasaba magwala.
Comrades, comrades, comrades. Amanda! 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 Hey, Minaj, Minaj, it's so sad. Nonhle, when she closed, yeah, they were like, no, 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 no. We don't care what we'll be told. We're grabbing lunch. Yeah, no, they know who they are. They know who they are. Over and above that, we were asked to come back to plenary so we can close. We started a journey with each other. But look at the room. Look at the room. And no one must say, no, thank you. The only comrade who will clap hands for is Comrade Dinga. Ndlovu. Dinga Ndlovu. Comrade Ndlovu said to us, no, comrades, I'm here, I'm committed, but nyagoisha. So because nyagoisha, ngizocommit for Monday, but ngizozama. Comrade Dinga has been here since Monday. I'm just saying, but it's fine, Minaj. Let's attempt to close with the curtains, the blinds, the tables, and the few comrades who are still here. Are we attempting to close now?
Let's do it.
Let's attempt.
Okay, comrades. I think, to be fair, many comrades have left. They had to take the shuttle. They were going to miss the flight.
But that's why I'm not the fair one.
All right, comrades, we are done now. Well, we are done with this part of a long-term process. I want to remind comrades of the logic of the program of the past 3 days, the past 2.5 days in particular. On the first day, we spoke about the state of democracy. I'm closing the gathering. The movement caucus is continuing, so I'm not closing that. I'm not closing that. The first day of the gathering, we spoke about the state of democracy. We reflected critically from the perspective of movements on the past 30 years of democracy. And we asked ourselves the question, how did we get here? How did we get to this political crisis? What led us to the GNU moment? We looked at the rise of neoliberal hegemony in 1994. We looked at the state of the alliance and the contradictions in the ANC's alliance. And we looked at the state of movements, the demobilization of South African society. On day 2, yesterday, we used international examples to understand what tools our comrades in Brazil, in India, in Mexico are using in order to deepen democracy, to build power, and also to challenge state power. And then I missed a session. What was the first session yesterday? Comrade Mazubuko was on that panel. We looked at the 2024 elections and the results and what it means for people's power, what it means for social movements. And we ended off yesterday, I think, with an important session where we anti-privatization forum. Then this morning, we had comrades trying to bring everything together and speaking especially about how we build both social movements but also worker solidarity. And we kept speaking about this vehicle and what this vehicle is. And I think that discussion expanded and deepened in the discussion groups. Comrades, what we are committing to do for now is taking the plenary discussions, the discussions especially in the discussion groups, and forming a discussion group, a discussion document report, which we'll compile and have ready in the next few weeks, and we'll send that to everyone. That's what we're committing to doing now in the initial stages. We'll see what emerges from especially these last discussion groups. Then importantly, this is not the end of the process. After this, comrades from the social movements are meeting as part of the movement caucus, which Kia will speak more about.
So as Minaj shared what we were envisioning with the gathering, the idea, just to give you even more kind of background, the idea was for us to come together from the 30th of September till the 4th of October. The 30th of September and the 4th of October are what we call the movement caucus, or rather something that was aptly called by Comrade Dinga the Hlahlubo session. The movement caucus is a space for activists, movement leaders to come together to reflect, but to deeply then figure out what do we do to move forward. On Monday afternoon we met, and we also met on Tuesday morning. And what we did was that we were anchored by Comrade Dinga's input that gave us 5 key things that we can use as anchors to think through what this kind of political moment means, but reflecting on democracy and what has it meant for social movements and popular organization. What was beautiful was that from Tuesday on, when we started in the afternoon with the gathering, we had some of the key themes that came out of the movement caucus finding life in the gathering. We've heard them. Comrades Henrietta and Tolagen and Comrade Faiz, you'll attest to that, ne? The container that we created on Monday has gotten legs throughout the whole week. What we'll be then doing after lunch is convening again the movement caucus to wrap up what we started on Monday and Tuesday, and to now go in deep into what is it that we're wanting to collectively to do together. So as we've said in many iterations this week, right, we must know the distinction between a movement-based organization or a membership-based organization and an NGO. My Vote Counts is a special kind of NGO. We're a service NGO. So our role then is to work with comrades within the movement caucus to figure out collectively what happens. But when we're saying collective, meaning that My Vote Counts created the space for us to coalesce, but My Vote Counts is not going to drive what we need to do next. We are a service organization, and one of the things we do was for us to come together for the past 4 days. So thank you so much, comrades. For those who will not be joining us for the movement caucus, I want to appreciate your time, your energy, your effort. I want to say also thank you to the speakers, the panelists, and each and every single person that brought life, voice, insight into our space collectively. We're deeply excited at the possibilities of what we can do together going forward, but most importantly, what we'll be doing in this afternoon with our movement comrades. That being said, I'm going to hand over to Mutofela gore a re kwalele.
Dumelang gape. Amandla. So my last piece of kwalana ke bitsa Too many struggles. Too many struggles messing up my mental muscles. Many stumble in bundles as they fumble to juggle chores. Always moving back and forth like waves do at seashores, inflicting multiple sores in the hearts of the poor. Too many struggles, no common direction to lead us on a path of revolution. While others struggle for revolution, many hustle for recognition. Competition rapidly replacing cooperation. Too many struggles slowing down the pace, silencing the major voices of pain who are crying out for meaningful change. Too many struggles, too many fights, too many quarrels. Will we ever have one struggle for economic and social justice? Because too many struggles who confuse and suppress our precious muscles, the masses.
Tabi Seng wants to say something.
No, it's we have a register.
Okay. Okay, comrades, that's it. We closed. If you haven't signed the register, it will be there. You can sign it there. If you didn't get a T-shirt, speak to the Judava comrades about a T-shirt. Any other logistics announcements? Don't miss your flights. And that's it. Thank. Thank you, comrades.